Disney CEO Bob Chapek has a better way to advance the LGBTQ agenda. What is it? Find out. What's recently happened is over in Florida, where Disney has a really big footprint, think about Disney World and those sorts of things, there's legislation being put forth, being discussed. It's called the
Don't Say Gay.
Don't say gay.
Don't Say Gay bill by those who oppose it. The legislation basically says that teachers or third parties cannot teach sexual orientation, gender identity issues, and really in line with the LGBTQ agenda. They cannot teach that and they cannot advocate for it, and it must be age appropriate in all the other ages as well. The fact that that is a controversy kind of shows the state of our culture. Some of the employees of Disney who are friendly to the LGBTQ movement got together with CEO Bob Chapek of Disney to voice their concern that Disney had made no public statements renouncing the legislation being discussed. After that conversation, he sent out an email, a memo to all the employees of Disney talking about why they have not done that, where they stand, and what they're actually trying to do. And the email is very, very enlightening to what they think, believe, and what they're actually trying to do with their product. And so I'll read a couple of quotes from his email to his employees about why they're choosing to do what they do and being silent publicly on this, but still pushing for the agenda in a different way. He would argue, and I would actually agree with him, in a more powerful way. So he says in his email to his employees, first off, he says, I want to be crystal clear that I and the entire leadership team are unequivocally standing in support of the LGBTQ employees, their families and communities, and world. And so just note right off the bat that he, the CEO, and the leadership of Disney, they want to push for this LGBTQ agenda. They think this is what a more inclusive world will look like, and they're on board with that revolution. So they're pushing for that change within what they are thinking and producing within their company. It says, as we've seen time and again, corporate statements do very little to change outcomes or minds. Instead, they often are weaponized by one side or the other to further divide and inflame. Simply put, they can be counterproductive and undermine more effective ways to achieve change. I don't want anyone to mistake a lack of a statement for lack of support. We all share the same goal of a more tolerant, respectful world. Where we may differ is in the tactics to get there. He's saying we got a better tactic to achieve the revolution that we're looking for within the LGBTQ agenda. So what is that better tactic? What is that better way? He says, I believe the best way for our company to bring about lasting change is through the inspiring content we produce. We are telling important stories, raising voices, and I believe changing hearts and minds. He then goes on to list many of their different movies and shows, things like Modern Family, Summer of Soul, Love Victor, Encanto, and many others, saying these sorts of stories are what we're using to achieve the change we desire. These and all of our diverse stories are our corporate statements. They are more powerful than any tweet or lobbying effort. And really, I couldn't agree more with that statement. Those stories which are communicating ideas, advocating for social change, are a more powerful way to convince people, especially younger generations, of certain ideas that you think are good and valuable. He goes on, I firmly believe that our ability to tell such stories and have them received with open eyes, ears, and hearts would be diminished if our company were to become a political football in any debate. So we're going to stay out of it publicly, not make a public corporate statement, but we'll continue to use our stories, our movies, our shows, our characters to present these ideas in a fun, loving, engaging way where the characters are charming, the ideas seem very good and happy and necessary, and you can really indoctrinate multiple generations that these things are true. They taste so good going down when presented with the format of Disney movies. I mean, it's just, hey, it's a Disney character. Look how colorful, how playful, and look how likable that idea is, that person is. Therefore, their ideas must be likable too. It's a pill easy to swallow, but that pill is poison, as it's an anti-biblical worldview on multiple levels in regards to sexuality, even morality, and so forth. And then he tells his employees, I hope we all will continue rowing in the direction of a better tomorrow. So the better tomorrow is the tomorrow that's more tolerant of LGBTQ sexual orientation, gender identity, transgender identity. That's where we need to be going. And they're pushing for that. And now there are really three key things I want to address in what we just shared right there. Three ideas I want you to think about as a Christian from a biblical perspective. And to understand that these things are not just with Disney, but with everybody else, and how to think biblically and strategically as we want to be equipped to defend our faith and engage the culture on biblical authority issues like sexuality and, of course, salvation. Point number one is this. There is no neutrality. Please understand, nobody's neutral. Nobody can be. Disney is not neutral. The content creators of Disney, the people there making the movies, making the shows, they have a worldview, and they're going to do their best to communicate that worldview through the mediums they have. And the medium of Disney Disney is very, very powerful, engages so many people. If you go to Disney Plus, the streaming platform, look at all the movies, all the very popular movies and shows that are right there that are really presenting different ideas. And the people who make those have a worldview. And that worldview is either A, in line with the Bible, it's submitting to the Bible as the ultimate authority and really using that as its framework to look at the world and how to engage the world, or they're rejecting the Bible. And when you do that, you're left with really man's ideas in some way, shape, or form as your ultimate authority. And so as we see here with Disney, from the CEO down, they're saying, no, this worldview that supports the LGBTQ agenda revolution, that is the right one, which is in direct opposition to the biblical worldview, which defines sexuality very differently, gender orientation very differently than the LGBTQ plus agenda does. Point number 2, not only are they not neutral, but they're also religious. You see, we often say here at the ministry that I work for that everybody's religious, everybody's got faith. The question is, where do you put your faith? Either you put your faith in the word of the living God, or you reject that and you put your faith in the ideas of man. Because no human being knows everything. So we all gotta believe things by faith. And so you're putting your faith somewhere, therefore you're religious by definition. And by the way, that faith has views about God, how to worship Him, how He's to be viewed, how to engage the culture in response to what He has said, if He does or does not exist. All those are religious ideas. Nobody's neutral, everybody is religious. The last point is this: Disney is evangelistic. They are trying to win hearts and minds. As Bob Chapek said, he wants to keep open eyes and open ears and open hearts to the message so they can achieve the change that he so desires. They want to convince people of their worldview. And by the way, kind of following the theme of the first 2 points, everybody in some sense is evangelistic. Everyone has a worldview, it's religious by definition, and we want to convince others that that worldview is the right one. And we're trying to evangelize people to our side. And Disney is no different. They've got a worldview and they're trying to bring people to their side. They want to win hearts and minds, to change this culture, to build to a better tomorrow. And by the way, these ideas of the LGBTQ agenda are utterly anti-biblical. They go against God's clear revelation of His Word, how He's designed things, how He's made things. And so they are not compatible with the biblical worldview. We as Christians, we really need to realize we are not the only fishers of men. And Disney is a fisher of men, it's a fisher of children, fisher of teenagers, fisher of all people to try to reel them in into basically anti-biblical worldview. Now it's done with a pretty picture, engaging movies, good technology, engaging visuals with the movies and soundtracks and so forth, but it's still poison at the core because it's anti-biblical. God made us, He knows how we work best. When we're in line with His Word, things always work better. Dear Christian, we are not the only fishers of men. Let's remember that, stand firm, and be equipped to engage these ideas from a biblical perspective and not be caught off guard by the evangelistic tactics even of Disney.